Now we are going to begin with the second session of block first, paper 10 of MA final. In the previous session, we have already discussed the introduction of English as language and the earliest Indian writers in English, the pioneers who made their successful efforts to compose in English. Now, let's begin with the daring efforts of some of the writers. Let's first begin with Henry Louis Vivian Desrosiers and the early voices of identity. The first Indian English poet of note, Henry Louis Vivian Desrosiers, 1809 to 1831, was the son of an Indo-Portuguese father and an English mother. As precocious child, he had already taken to writing in his teens. As a lecturer at Hindu College, Calcutta, his fearless spirit of inquiry, his passion for ideas, his reformistic idealism, and his romantic enthusiasm fired the imagination of many a student. In his brief career of 6 years, he published 2 volumes of poetry, poems 1827, and The Fakir of Jangira, a metrical tale, and other poems in 1821. The short poems show a strong influence of British Romantic poets in theme. For example, Sonnet to the Moon. Another sonnet, The Golden Vase. Yet another sonnet, Death, my best friend. Sentiment, imagery, and depiction with some traces of neoclassicism. For example, The Heart where hope eternal springs, with its obvious echo of Alexander Pope. His satirical verse, Don Juanix, and the long narrative poems, The Fakir of Jangira, clearly indicate his special affinity with Byron. Poems like To India, My Native Land. Another poem, The Harp of India. Yet another, To the Pupils of Hindu College, have an unmistakable authenticity of patriotic utterance and exuberance which stamped Desrosiers as an Indian English poet who is truly a son of the soil. However, his innovative ideas, his fiery imagination, his reformist zeal, and the progressive and modern ideas, anti-traditional sentiments, and his popularity in the college made so many people jealous of him, and the parents of many of his students complained in writing to the college administrations and forced them in a way to dismiss him. However, his enterprise did not stop, and he launched his journal. Unfortunately, he collapsed and breathed his last within the next 6 months. Another important poet from Bengal was Kashi Prasad Ghosh, 1809 to 1873. He was the first pure Indian blood to publish his first volume of verse, The Shire or Minstrel and Other Poems, in 1830. He seems to intimate by turns the stylized love lyrics of the Cavalier poets, the moralizing note in neoclassical poetry, and British romantics. His sire being obviously Scots minstrel in an Indian garb, slightly disheveled as a result of the arduous voyage across the seas. His use of Indian material in his poems about the Hindu festivals and in lyrics like the boatman's song to Ganga indicate an honest attempt to strike a native wood note which fails not because not because for the lack of earnestness or purpose, but owing to sheer lack of true poetic talent. His was derivative and imitative poetry made up mainly of conventional descriptions and tedious moralizing, but it is a tedium brightened by odd flashes of originality, and thus a bright poetic phrase or line occasionally glistens amidst the heap of utterly prosaic and the inane. Another important name that figures after Kashi Prasad Ghosh is Rajendra Narayan Dutt from 1824 to 1889. His verse narrative, Osmium and Arabian Tale, published in 1841, in faded heroic couplets, Sushi Chandra Dutt, 1815 to 65, and his miscellaneous poems published in 1848, and Hoor Chandra Dutt, 1831 to 1901, and his fugitive pieces, 1851, are some other daring efforts to directly write in English. The most prominent name that figures in those days is of Michael Madhusudan Dutt, and with him begins the evolution of modern poetry in English. Michael Madhusudan Dutt, 1824 to 1873, in addition to some sonnets and short pieces, wrote two long poems in English. First, The Captive Lady, published in 1849, and next, The Vision of the Past, that was also published in 1849. The former, that is The Captive Lady, narrates the story of the Rajput king Prithviraj, his losing warlike abduction of the Kannauj king's daughter, and his unsuccessful battle with the Muslim invader, ending in his own death and that of his queen Sanyukta. This was the effort, or it can be termed as the misdeed, of Prithviraj Chauhan that infuriated other Hindu kings also, because in a relation, Sanyukta was his sister. And this sort of love affair and abduction and marriage turned even Hindu kings against him. Dutt takes liberties with history by making Prithviraj and his queen Sanyukta kill themselves by mounting a funeral pyre at the end. While the facts of history reveal that the Hindu king Prithviraj was captured by Muhammad Ghori and put to death by this conqueror. In contrast to the historical facts of the poem, Dutt's prosody is pure, and his octosyllabic move with almost as much vigor and energy as in his models, for example, Scott and Byron. The Athenaeum declared that the poem contained passages which neither Scott nor Byron would have been ashamed to own. And this was, in those days, a great praise earned by an Indian writer in English. In the later poem, in Miltonic blank verse, complete with weighty, abstract diction and Latin inversions, the poet handles the Christian theme of the temptation and fall and redemption of man. The most important name that comes to mind in those days is that of Toru Dutt. And Toru Dutt's assertion of Indian life. Toru Dutt, a Bengali, born on March 4th, 1856, and died prematurely on August 30, 1877, was an Indian poet who wrote in English and French and made a mark in literature in spite of her premature death. She remained in Calcutta till November 1869, after which she and her sisters Aru traveled to France, Italy, and then England. She went to a school in France for the first time of her life and had an intimacy with French during that period. In England, she continued her higher French studies while living in Cambridge between 1871 and 73. She attended the higher lectures for women at the university. As a natural linguist, and in her short life became proficient in Bengali, English, French, and later on in Sanskrit also. She left behind an impressive collection of prose and poetry. Her two novels, The Unfinished Bianca or The Young Spanish Maidan, written in English, and Le Journal de Mademoiselle de Herves, written in French, were based outside India with known Indian protagonists. Her poetry comprises a sheaf gleaned in French fields 1876, consisting of her translations into English of French poetry. At first, this collection attracted little attention. And not only a sheaf gleaned in French fields, she has a sheaf gleaned in Sanskrit fields as well. When a collection of Sanskrit translation, the ancient ballads and legends of Hindustan, was published posthumously in 1882, Edmund Gosey wrote an introductory memoir for it. In this he wrote, of Torudutt, she brought with her from Europe a store of knowledge that would have sufficed to make an English or French girl seem learned, but which in her case was simply miraculous. In her English poetry, there can be seen a gradual imitation to authenticity with the entry of Torudutt into the arena of literature. However, she lived a very short life of just 21 years, yet she showed an incredible mastery not only of English but also of French and Sanskrit. Within this short span of life, she had a sheaf gleaned in French fields, but also had an equal brilliant sheaf gleaned in Sanskrit fields. Her present fame rests largely on 9 stories from classical Sanskrit literature presented in ancient ballads and legends of Hindustan. Torudutt is perhaps the pioneering effort in which she tried to acquaint the West with the culture of India, with the literature of India. Torudutt was an inheritor of unfulfilled renown. Her early death reminds one of Wordsworth's lines about Chatterton. Wordsworth has written, I thought of Chatterton, the marvelous boy who perished in his prime. At a young age, she was proficient not only in Sanskrit but also in French. What she said of her sister Aru is equally true about her own case. Of all the sad words of tongue and pen, the saddest are these, it might have been. Had her race not been run so early, she would have done great service to Sanskrit literature also. The lyrical genius of Toru can be seen from a poem entitled Vocation. This was published in her French work, A Sheaf Gleaned in French Fields. Torudutt's mastery of French is astounding. The lyric which earned popularity is Berenger's My Vocation. The lyric shows that while she translated French poet, she was also influenced by Shelley. The lyrical fervor of Shelley, who was known as the singing god, can be seen miraculously in Torudutt's poetry also. Let's, for example, see this poem. By wealth's couch besmeared with dirt in a shower, insulted and jeered by minions of power. Where, oh where shall I fly? Who comfort will bring? Sing, said God in reply, chant, poor little thing. So the passion, devotion, lyricism, all are mixed together in this poem. Torudat had her firm roots in ancient ballads and legends of Hindustan. The volume provides the best description of Hindu thought in competent narrative and descriptive verses. The stories are borrowed from the Ramayana, the Mahabharata, the Vishnu Puran, and the Bhagavad Puran. She revealed the soul of India to the West through the medium of English poetry. All the 9 stories in the ancient ballads are important. Some of them are discussed here. First, Lakshman is an episode from the Ramayana. It starts at point where Marich, on the behest of demon king Ravana, disguises as deer, golden deer, and tempts Lord Ram to hunt because Sita wants to decorate her hut with the skin of this golden deer. The marriage, the deer in disguise, plays a clever trick, and in the voice of Ram, he shouts for help. Sita thinks that her husband is in trouble. She asks Lakshman to go to his rescue. But Lakshman has been given the duty to take care, safeguard, and protect Sita, and not to leave her alone in any condition. Lakshman wants to follow his brother Ram's instructions and refuses to leave her alone. He could sense that this could be the trick of the Rakshasas, and no one on earth has the courage to make Ram cry for help. But Sita accuses him of his base motives, that he wants to marry her. Lakshman is not able to bear this affront and decides to go to Rama's rescue. Next ballad, taken from the Mahabharata, narrates the story of Bhuttu, Eklavya, who wanted to learn the art of archery from Dronacharya, the teacher of Pandava and Kuru princes. Bhuttu was a low caste, a hunter's son. In those days, even a guru, even if he was impressed by the skill and devotion of somebody, could not impart education on his own, of his free will, because he was an employer of the Kshatriyas, that is, Kauravas and Pandavas. However, Eklavya continued his practice by learning from an idol of Dronacharya. He considered himself a pupil of Dronacharya and mastered archery. One day, a dog started barking and that disturbed his concentration, and his arrows were missing the mark. He decided to stop the mouth of the dog, and he filled the dog's mouth with arrows. Surprisingly, not killing the dog. And this magic archery was not everybody's cup of tea. It is not that anybody could learn it so easily. So Arjun doubted that this could have been taught only by Dronacharya. He complained to his own groom that you promised me to make the greatest archer in the world, but you have betrayed me by teaching the art of magic archery to someone else. Dronacharya verified the facts and asked the thumb of Bhutto's right hand as Guru Dakshina, with the clear aim that he could not shoot arrows in future. And Bhutto immediately showed his devotion, and as Guru Dakshina, he cut his thumb with a knife and gave it to Guru Dronacharya. Dronacharya was so impressed, and he blessed him, saying, "Fame shall sound thy praise from sea to sea, and men shall ever link thy name with self-help, truth, and modesty." Other translations of the legends are Shravan Kumar, Sita, Prahlad, Savitri, Dhruv, etc. Ancient ballads also contained some miscellaneous poems. Our Casuarina tree is one of them. It is modeled on Keats' Ode to Autumn. The only difference is that the 11-line stanza has different rhyme pattern: ABBA, CDDC, EEE. Torudutt was fond of writing on Indian themes even while she lived in England. Our Casuarina tree is also her masterpiece. Thanks.